This is Pleiku, 250 miles north of Saigon.
200 homes in a village nearby were leveled as the VC used the heaviest...
Growing up in Vietnam during the war was actually not that dramatic for me. War was part of our life, and we'd wake up and go to school, and at night there would be mortars falling. I don't think I ever realized how frightening the war was until I was actually in the United States and looking at the news and looking back at footages. I think that's when I realized how scary it all was. So I heard about these men who reenact the Vietnam War. It was a very exclusive group. It was all done by invitation, and they asked me to come to one of their events during the summer of 1999. It's a very odd amalgamation of people who come to this group. It's obvious that anyone who's been in combat would never participate because it's not quite a farce, but it's so far from reality that anyone who's lived through the real thing would not want to relive it again. There are veterans, perhaps people who had been in desk jobs or driving trucks, and for them it was a way to experience something that was a little closer to combat. To be able to come to the event, you have to participate, and I was given different choices of what characters I could inhabit. And I could be the Viet Cong guerrilla, I could be the combat photographer. I wanted to pick a character that would allow me to move back and forth between the GIs and the Viet Congs and the North Vietnamese Army. And it seems that the Viet Cong, the guerrilla, would be a good character because I could be with the North Vietnamese and turncoat and go to the GIs. So I had to actually order the Vietnamese-made black pajamas, the Ho Chi Minh sandals, the Bruni hats. Then I quickly realized that I was a keystone to the reenactment because suddenly they had a real Vietnamese woman who was a Viet Cong, and it just really boosted, the authenticity of the event. Wearing the black pajamas was very difficult because it represented something so frightening. Growing up as a child, I think I had never really seen a live Viet Cong, and I had seen bodies in the streets during the Tet Offensive. I had demons to try to overcome, and I quickly realized that they were working out their issues, and so I thought it was an interesting moment that we all came together to make these pictures. The day the war started in Iraq in 2003, I became extremely distraught. Being an artist, I thought of ways to deal with that. I came across pictures of the Marines training in a Marine base called 29 Palms outside of Los Angeles near Joshua Tree. And the landscape looked like parts of Afghanistan. And after working with the reenactors, I thought, well, a stand-in for Afghanistan could just be great. So I called up the public relations department at 29 Palms and asked for permission to come and photograph there. Even though it was training, it was for real. The scale is enormous. You're dealing with fighter jet planes, you're dealing with tanks moving across the land. And so the level of intensity was multiplied 100-fold. You could really see that it was training for war, that it was a set, that it was a theater. So I became interested in looking at the landscape in terms of strategy. You're looking at a field, and it's a field, but if you look at it in military terms, there's an exit and entry point. It's really more using the landscape as a place to contemplate war. And I love 19th century photography. That's what inspires me, and it's part of that tradition. So it comes down to how do you incorporate that in the landscape. And it's about trying to find ways to layer the description of the land with my interest in culture, my interest in architecture, and then also my interest in all of the current issues that people are concerned with. But I think in the end, I'm really trying to understand the effect of war on my life. and I'm just using landscape photography to try to answer those questions.